Hello aspirants and welcome again to Legacy IAS Academy. In this current affairs lectures, we will be analyzing the Pakistan's stock market crash. We'll see how much is the crash, the degree of it, the reasons of it. Subsequently, we'll also be having a snapshot of the entire economy of Pakistan based on the three reports of IMF, World Bank and the credit rating agency Finch. We'll see the reason behind the stock market crash, and subsequently we will also see how was the economy of Pakistan behaving and presently how it is, what the future holds for them. So let's get started with the news. So what is the news? The news is that Pakistan stock market has crashed by about 2,000 points. Now this has happened in the aftermath of the actions taken by India in the aftermath of the Pahalgam attack. So what is the sequence of event that has happened? So there has been a terrorist attack in Pahalgam. Many lives were taken. Now this was a targeted, specifically targeted terrorist attack which has happened, subsequent to which India has taken certain actions, after which we are seeing a downfall of the Pakistani stock exchange. So this is what has happened recently. So now we will analyze what is this drop about, what actions India has taken, and what is the present situation of the Pakistan economy based on certain reports, and what does the future hold. So let's get started. The Pahalgam attack and India's response. So what has happened is terrorist attack in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir, a very sad situation, a terrifying situation, terrorizing act which has happened, which has taken 28 lives. 28 lives have been taken in this attack. There are several injuries that has happened. Not just that, these lives that have been taken leaves behind a lot of people, their loved ones, the family, the friends, the nation at large, and of course the humanity has had a setback because of this. Now, subsequent to this, what has India done? India has responded by certain actions. So what are these actions? India has first of all suspended its Indus Water Treaty. So India and Pakistan have an Indus Water Treaty which was brokered by World Bank. Important for you to remember. So India has suspended that. Also, revocation of all visas issued to Pakistani citizens. All such visas have been completely revoked. Closure of airspace to Pakistani airlines. Suspension of bilateral trade agreements. So whatever bilateral trade agreements have been there, they have been suspended, and the closure of airspace to Pakistani airlines. What is this all about? Pakistani airlines were allowed to fly in the Indian airspace when they are, going from one place to another. Now that has also been closed. So we are trying our best. Maybe we should be trying even more. We will be in the coming days, but the immediate response, this is what the immediate response of India has been. Now it is very clear that no trade, nothing is going to happen from our side, as a result of which there would be even more uncertainty, even more effect on the economy of Pakistan, as a result of which many more countries would want to take certain actions. Specifically, the countries who are allies of India would now tread more carefully with Pakistan, which has impacted Pakistan's stock market. And if you see, the KSE 100 index plunged by 2,000 points yesterday, that is 24th April 2025. At the same time, if you look at the investor sentiment, it is not good. Why? Because of the heightened uncertainty due to this geopolitical tension that is happening. Now, the question is, before we go into the IMF's economic outlook, the question is, as this was a terrorist attack, that means an attack by extra state actors. It was not the army of Pakistan as such, or the military of Pakistan, or the police, or the government of Pakistan. Then why is Pakistan to be blamed over here? The reason is very simple. They are, of course, the extra state actors, but their breeding ground is in Pakistan and the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and there is also support which is there. Now, what kind of support are we talking about here? See, Pakistan's economy, when you talk about, a major chunk of Pakistan's economy consists of The aid that is provided to it by the international organizations, including the IMF, fair enough, that is for development projects, etc. But also it gets grants specifically from USA in hundreds of millions of dollars to fight terrorism. Now, if it is getting grants to fight terrorism, we may think prima facie that yes, that's good, it's needed so that Pakistan fights and ends the terrorism. But is it ending? Is it stopping? Is it lowering? Or is it increasing? Or at least it is consistently there? So if you look at historical data, you will realize that it is still consistently present. Why so? Because the moment you are getting aid to fight terrorism, there is a conflict of interest that has been created for Pakistan. What is that conflict of interest? For example, let us understand that Pakistan, for once, let's imagine that it starts fighting terrorism with the aid that it is getting and actually eliminates terrorism from its place. Then what? What will happen is, then the aid to Pakistan will stop because there is no terrorism to fight anymore. So isn't it in favor of Pakistan to keep having terrorist terrorist organizations so that it can keep on getting the funding? That's a high possibility, right? That is a high possibility. So what happens is, if it has, let's say, 50 terror outfits, it is going to use the money, maybe eliminate or reduce some of the terror outfits, but also insert some more. So what happens? The number remains sort of stagnant around 40 to 60, round about that, and it continues. And what happens, if you see when major terror attacks have taken place, for example, that of 2001, what has happened? The funding to fight terrorism to Pakistan has skyrocketed at that time. So there is a big conflict of interest which is definitely present. As a result of which, it's very difficult, it's near impossibility for us to expect that Pakistan is actually going to fight terrorism. That is exactly why probably we have to do that for them, right? And that is what we had tried to do previously. We had done previously in the surgical strikes, and now also certain operations would definitely be are ongoing, and would definitely be more that will go on in order to eradicate this menace which is hampering the humanity. So let's move ahead. So this is the conflict which we have understood with respect to Pakistan fighting terrorism and the aid that it is getting. So we understand there's a conflict. So it is a helpless situation in the sense that we cannot rely on that thing. We have to take matters in our own hands. So that's absolutely clear. Now let's begin or move on to the three reports that we will talk about, that is from the IMF, World Bank and the credit rating agency Fitch. So the very first, that is the IMF's economic outlook for Pakistan. Now, what is the outlook all about? So IMF says that Pakistan GDP growth rate projection will be about 2.6%. Recently, IMF has lowered the growth rate for almost all the countries, including India, but India, of course, is growing way above 6%. Here we are talking about Pakistan. Its growth rate projection has been brought down to 2.6% in the current fiscal year, which is quite low. See, these kind of growth rate for developed countries with huge economy base is fair enough, but this is for a developing country like Pakistan, which with very small economy, this is quite slow, so they are not doing well. In fact, very ironically, till very recently, in the last couple of years, they were doing comparatively better than what they used to. But again, these kind of activities has happened, and now there is a response from India, there's a crash in the market, so it is now about to get worse. So what is the reason for this? The reason is the anticipated impact of US tariffs. So there has been tariffs that have been imposed on Pakistani goods as well. However, there is a 90-day stay right now, but it was imposed, so that also lowers your projection, and it might again be there. Plus the dependence on IMF's extended fund facility. So Pakistan is basically dependent on the IMF's extended fund facility, right? $1 billion have already been given. Now there will be a review of how Pakistan has spent those $1 billion, and if found to be right kind of an expenditure, then IMF will give another $1 billion to Pakistan. So even right now Pakistan is at the mercy of that fund from the IMF. Moving ahead, let's look at what the World Bank has to say about Pakistan. So World Bank has mentioned that agriculture has seen a limited growth, right? So there is a limited growth. The reasons for that is adverse weather, climate change, right? At the same time, pest infestation is there, which has limited the growth of agriculture. Industrial activity has also declined. Why? Because of higher input costs. Why? Because Pakistan is dealing with a very high amount of inflation in the country. Things are so costly, because of which input costs are high, as a result of which industrial activity has also declined. Now the growth of service sector was also muted, quiet. It was sort of stagnant. Why? Because there was no spillover from agriculture or the industrial sector. So overall, the growth of Pakistan's economy is kind of muted and stagnant, or very low to non-existent. Now, this economic growth in the future is going to remain tepid, as a result of which the job creation and the poverty reduction is said to be quite challenging in Pakistan. Now, see, when this is the case, it is going to become again a breeding ground of crimes, etc. in Pakistan, and then these people with no jobs, with no employment, etc. are then being brainwashed to carry out terror activities, so on and so forth. Right, let's move ahead with respect to the credit rating agency Fitch and Pakistan. So what does Fitch say about Pakistan? So it says that progress on difficult structural reforms will be the key to upcoming IMF program reviews. What does it mean? It says that, you see, Pakistan has taken loan money from IMF, right? Loan from IMF. Now IMF is going to review it. Now in the review, they need to ensure that certain structural changes have been made in the Pakistan economy. Why? Because IMF loan comes up with conditions. So if these conditions are not met, IMF may not even give the second round of loans, as a result of which that will create further problems for Pakistan and its economy. Right? Now, for these particular structural reforms to take place, what should Pakistan do? So Fitch suggests that Pakistan is expected to raise taxes, right, and pull back on protectionism. Of course, IMF has some sort of clause like this always, that remove protectionism. Remove protectionism means reduce the tariffs, allow other countries to trade with you more and more, and you also trade with them more and more. So basically asking the economy to be liberalized. So this is the condition which is there, as a result of which Pakistan has already removed the minimum support price for its farmers. Right? Why? Because if minimum support price is there, the goods, the prices can be higher. Why minimum support price? Because the prices in the market would be lower. That is why you set up the minimum support price. You now remove it. So you have removed the minimum support price. So now the prices can go down further low as well, which will create a problem for the farmers of Pakistan. However, it was considered to be a necessary step. Why? Because remember, just now we said that the inflation was high. So what kind of economic situation is present in Pakistan right now? A very weird kind of a situation wherein inflation is high but growth is less. Why weird? Because generally the growth is accompanied by inflation. In fact, there was a UPSC question asking that growth is generally accompanied by what? The correct answer was small amount of inflation. But what is happening? Inflation is there, but growth is not there. When inflation is there, jobs are created actually. That is what happens. So higher the inflation, lower the unemployment rate up to a certain level, of course. But what is happening? Again, the opposite. Inflation is still high. Jobs are also not less. So Pakistan is dealing with a terrible economic situation right now. And probably it's going to get worse because actions after actions are being taken by India against Pakistan. Thank you.